Hi everyone, welcome to my video on my story about depression. I have suffered with depression, anxiety, self-esteem issues, a lot of this kind of thing, and I really felt it was important to sit down and make a video because I hope that my story can perhaps help somebody else. If you're watching this, I hope it does, but also I think there are a lot more people that suffer with depression than let on, and I think it just helps raise the awareness, and actually this is what depression is as well. So I'm just going to jump right into it. So yeah, I've had depression for about 13 years. I say I have depression. I had it from about the age of 10 to 23. I'm 27 now, just to give you the idea of where it is. So yeah, I think it really started when I was 10, and I know this is an early age and it could well have been hormones coming in, I don't know. I think the main thing was I had this thing called FIMO, and it is basically poisonous. And I remember reading this as a kid, and I remember then having these thoughts, and this thought was, oh, if you ate it, no one would miss you. And I think it started to build on that, and it really played on me, and it just kind of built and built and built. Because I was only 10, I kind of didn't think it was abnormal to get these thoughts. I didn't talk to anyone, and that's partly how it built. And it's like, it is just one of those things. It's really hard because 10-year-olds won't, it's like you just don't make the connection with that, because it's like, oh yes, I'm 10 years old, oh, I'm having these thoughts, oh, I must be depressed. You don't get that. And so, I mean, if you do, that's great, and you can go get help, but it's very difficult, for me at least it was. And so it just kind of built and got worse and worse, and as I went through senior school, I suffered with bullying, and the worst thing was people didn't believe I was getting bullied, and so it made it worse and made me think, oh, is it all in my head? Actually, am I just, insane or something? And I'm also dyslexic, so school was hard enough as it was, and so with that added pressure, I was doing pants at school anyway. Well, pants in my opinion for what I could have done. I think everybody says that about their school life, to be honest. But yeah, it was a very difficult time. I think it wasn't the worst at school, I will be honest. It kind of was levelled, and then I think probably towards year 11 at school, it started getting worse and worse, and that's when I started self-harming. And it was quite mild at first. I'd kind of get one of those wooden nail sticks and just make some scratches and things like that, and it just helped ease it a little bit. So yeah, and then yeah. So I left school. I actually did okay in the end, which was great considering everything. I mean, I'm not going to go into everything just because this video would be about 4 hours long if I did. So if there's an area which actually you're like, actually please do talk about that a little bit more, let me know. But yeah, so I left school. I then went to college, and I think in my head I just did not know what to do with my life, and I felt very lost. I mean, college again, it didn't really get a lot worse at college. I think it was actually once I left college it started to get worse. And that was partly because obviously I turned 18, and then drink got involved, and as most of you probably do know this already, alcohol is a depressant, so obviously it does make it worse. And I was always very careful because, I was like, right, I don't want to be really drunk, but I'll just get a happy buzz on, and as you can imagine, that didn't quite go well. So it went well at first, and then I think I was limiting myself to 3, and that was my limit. I couldn't have any more. and then I started having one more, and then I got to about 5, and then I couldn't stop, and I was just drinking a lot, which obviously made the depression worse. I then felt bad about drinking, again, this cycle of just being worse and worse. I think it got worse when I then went to New Zealand, and this was the first time without my parents, and I was like, woohoo! And it was honestly, it was an amazing time, but there was some really crappy stuff that happened. I basically got my drink spiked in New Zealand, and I was basically sexually assaulted. It could have been a lot worse. Thankfully it wasn't, and I truly believe, I mean, I'm a Christian, and I'm not going to hide that. I really, truly believe that God was looking out for me, or a guardian angel, or whatever you like to believe in. It was, personally, I think it was God, but, you know, if you don't believe in that, that's fine, you know, call it guardian angel. So, I really, looking back on that, it just makes me amazed, really. But again, I'm not going to go, like, linger on that. I then came back, and various stuff happened in my life, and I think by that point, the self-harm hadn't got that bad at this point. It was the worst when probably, I think it was about 2 months into uni, it got very, very bad. And I think it was just, I felt so by myself and so isolated, it just spiraled out of control. I'd only ever kind of done scratching and things, and I took to a razor blade, and I probably should have gone for stitches. I mean, it's healed up, which is, again, a miracle, but basically I hacked at my arm, and it didn't stop bleeding for a long time. I was very, very scared. I was drinking alone in my room at the time, and I think this is when I just got hooked on drink, and that really didn't help. I then couldn't sleep, so I had about 4 hours a night, so I was getting barely any sleep. I wasn't eating properly, and you can just see where this is going. And it was just an awful time, and I mean, I actually ended up with a degree. I have no idea how I managed it with that, because it got to the point where I was literally just, I didn't want to get up, I didn't want to move, I could barely cope with getting out of bed. That was how bad it got. I just didn't want to be alive, to be honest. And it was a very, very hard time to cope with life. I would just constantly watch telly because I just could not face reality. It was very, very hard, yeah, it was just, honestly, I can't begin to describe how crappy it was, and I'm sure there's a much better word for it, but it was. Yeah, so how I basically got better, there's a lot of things. Just so you are aware, because I am a Christian, I do believe this has helped, as well as other methods. So obviously they were running alongside, which I'll explain as I go along in this video, but just so you are aware. Yeah, so I was very isolated, basically had no friends, partly because I was isolating myself, because I just didn't, I felt it was just too hard, and I just couldn't cope with life, so basically that was part of it as well. So I was messaged on Facebook. I doubt the person's watching, but if they are and they remember this, I actually want to say thank you, because this was the beginning of how I basically started getting better. Someone messaged me, and I was so overwhelmed that they messaged me and invited me to an event that I was like, I'm going. Like, it was great. I'm just going to pause it, sorry, because my dinner's basically burning. I'm now sort of taking you slightly more mobile, so I'm sorry if this is a bit wiggly woo. I'm sorry I had to dash out then, but I was smelling burning and I was like, I can't not do this anymore. Yeah, sorry if I recap. I was like, yeah, basically I was so overwhelmed that somebody actually asked me that I went, and I was just like, this is crazy, and I don't quite know, why they wanted me there. And basically it was someone inviting me along to the Christian Union, and I originally had joined, and they had my contact details because I was told by my older brother, so if you're watching, hello, that they give you free food. And so I genuinely joined on that basis because, as I said earlier, I wasn't eating well. I literally lived on bread alone for 2 weeks. I wouldn't recommend it personally. It's not good. So yeah, I joined, I went, and I think there was just this magnetism, and people wanted to know me, and I didn't have to be anything, I didn't have to do anything, and it was just these people, and I suddenly felt very welcome, and I felt like I'd come home, and I didn't feel as isolated anymore, and that was amazing. And along the lines of this, I went to counselling, so it wasn't just this woo spiritual thing. It was a practical thing as well. I believe that they run together. And the practical, I had a useless counsellor, and I'm just, when a counsellor tells you to look at eggs and being like, and why do you think they represent your family? Oh, anyway, let's not go into that because it was ridiculous. The next one was really, really helpful, and that helped me so much. So I would recommend, if you can see a counsellor, do it, because they were amazing. I mean, it was free because I was at uni, but even just someone to talk to, it was just really, really helpful. I then, where was I? So what happened after that? So that was kind of end of uni by that point. And I moved house, and it was a lot better situation because I kind of knew the people a little bit better as well that I moved into the house with, and that was really great, and that helped a lot. And I think it was just, I messed up so much, and like heavy drinking and things like this, that I wasn't happy with. That's got nothing to do with Christianity. It was just, I didn't feel right about it in my heart, or I just felt really unease. That I was like, and I thought my flatmate hated me. She came and gave me a lift, and I was sobbing, going, I thought you hated me, and things like this. And they were just so lovely, that I guess I was shown so much love that I think that really helped me. And I was like, actually, maybe I could, be, I don't know what the right word here is, but maybe there is hope for me yet, in a way. And I started to believe that. And I think it took a while to then manifest into actual belief, rather than, oh, maybe. And so that was really, really good. And I then ended up working for a church, which, to be quite frank, if you'd have told me that before I went to uni, I would have probably told you to F off. I'm going to be blunt here. That's what I would have said. I would have laughed, because I just wasn't that person. And yeah, so that was interesting. I went and did youth work, and again, this is where the kind of two roads parallel to each other helped. So on the one side, I was getting a lot of prayer from people in the church and things like this, but also I was getting the practical, so the counselling and things like that, and they ran together very well. I don't think one would have worked that well without the other. I mean, counselling was amazing, like, to be honest, that would have done a huge chunk as well, but I do truly believe the prayer worked as well, and that has worked in the long run, whereas counselling probably was better in the short term. Sorry, pregnancy brain, I do forget things, so please bear with me. Yes. So, basically, the depression started to get a lot better. And this is partly why I wanted to separate the videos, because as my depression got better, my anxiety started to rise. And I used to get about 2 or 3 panic attacks a week. And this kind of is now going into the anxiety, so I will leave that for another video. But needless to say, with depression, I have had dips, but it's kind of gone from really low dips, and then it's slowly gotten better and better, and actually now I don't feel depressed. I've not felt depressed in a very long time, and I think it's probably, I would have said, safe to say, 3 or 4 years since I have felt depressed, which is just amazing, really, because it is not an easy thing to cope with. I still get thoughts that drag me down, but it's easier to cope with now, and being like, actually, that's not true. And to be honest, that's where Mind really helped me. And yeah, I went on this thing that they do with the NHS called Talking Space, and this course was for anxiety and depression, and it was just so helpful. And I think the one thing that really helped me was when I get this thought, say, you know, I'm not good enough, or you know, that kind of thought that comes into your head, or when I was 10, you know, oh, no one would miss you. But actually taking that thought and being like, well, actually, would people miss me? And yes, they would have done. Siblings, parents, my family, my friends. And I didn't really see that they cared. But that was because I believed they didn't, and not because they didn't care. And I think it's then taking how my thought and how true my thoughts were that really helped. And I think that is the main thing that did help me get better on a practical sense, because yeah, it just helped me in the long run, because even if I got those thoughts today, I can put this thought on a hot trial, as they said in this course. But what I'm going to say is I will probably go more into that with the anxiety video rather than this video. But thank you for watching. It's been very long, but I hope I haven't bored you too much. But yeah, thank you. Bye.